Okay, this video is the art of the birth and childhood of Christ, and this is again done because tomorrow is Easter, so I want to show you some of these paintings here. This painting right here is the birth of John the Baptist, and John the Baptist, of course, was the friend of Jesus Christus and who baptized Jesus Christus. And he started out by saying he's a voice crying out in the wilderness, wearing camel hair and all that. All right, so here's John the Baptist born, okay, and then the next thing that happened right around that time was, well, actually a little earlier, but I just put them in this order because it works easier for this talk. This is the birth of Mary, the Virgin, by Domenico Ghirlandaio. So you can see all the women working together, and I think this is how society's always been. The modern world's kind of crazy, but in the past, like in the Victorian age or the Bantus, it's average for a woman to have about 10 kids during her lifetime, nurse the kid for a couple of years, let's say 3 years or so, and all the women to kind of help each other out with stuff. So they depend a lot on each other's help. And women tend to be in social groups, like there's all these women helping each other with the baby, with the family, with the children, and talking to each other. And I just say that by comparison with men. A lot of times men are working by themselves, I'll often not speak to a single person. I mean, if I'm really busy, I could go a long amount of time not speaking to a single person. Whereas women are more social from what I've seen. For every phone call I make, my wife makes approximately at least 1,000. Anyways, the birth of Mary, the Virgin, Domenico Ghirlandaio. A lot of great art was made by these Italian Renaissance artists. Okay. Here is a painting of the Annunciation. This one is by Beatrice Emma Parsons. A nice painting there. Mary's finding out that she's going to be the mother of God. Okay, here's a nice painting by Sandro Botticelli. Sandro Botticelli and Rogier van der Weyden were the two greatest artists of the 1400s. Botticelli was, sort of the favorite artist in the 1400s of the Medici family. And you see just a magnificent painting here. The angel Gabriel comes to give the Annunciation, and Mary, very shy, the Virgin, sort of amazed by it. Beautiful painting of the Annunciation by Phillipe de Champaigne, a French artist. Wonderful colors here. The Holy Spirit, the dove coming from above. I love all this Christian art. It's just magnificent. Okay, this is the guy I was mentioning earlier, Rogier van der Weyden. And so here's a triptych, meaning, 3 parts. And for the Marode altarpiece, Roger Campion was sort of like his older mentor guy, but Rogier van der Weyden was the great genius of the 1400s in art, him and Botticelli. There's little things in here. You can see the little Holy Spirit coming in, flying towards Mary, and it looks like Casper the Ghost. It's all quite beautiful. There's Joseph in the other room working, building a mousetrap, a mousetrap to catch the devil, the eventual crucifixion and whatnot. And the detail's magnificent. Here is the wedding of the Virgin of Joseph and Mary, painted by Raphael. And this background is going to remind you a lot of Perugino's painting of Jesus giving the keys to heaven to St. Peter. Okay, here's the Immaculate Conception, the Holy Spirit descending on Mary, and Christ child is coming from that. Some good songs. Of course, the opera song Ave Maria. The best singer of that is Luciano Pavarotti. And there's a Bach version, a Gounod version. John McCormick's a great singer of that opera song. Another great song, and not many people know about this guy, but he's a great singer, Jubilant Sykes. And he sings a song called Mary, Did You Know? Did you know you'd be the mother of Christ? And it's a great song, too. Trying to do that is connect all these things a little bit better. The song, the painting, sometimes the story of the song. Okay, Annunciation, adoration of the Magi, and the Magi were kind of wealthy, and so the Medicis also liked the Magi because they themselves were wealthy who were doing good things. People used to a lot of times resent wealthy, especially if they were money lenders, because they saw them usurers as not really doing much work, and they weren't even allowed to go to confession. So anyways, this is the same triptych. Here's the Annunciation, here's the birth of the child, and then here's the baptism of the child, the triptych. Here's Adoration of the Child by Gerhard von Honthorst, and it's a beautiful picture. And you just see, I mean, this is sort of what Christianity is all about. You know, the love of the family, the adoration of the child. Everybody's there and happy together. And this goes with the song "First Time Ever I Saw Your Face" by Roberta Flack. Also, "Away in a Manger," that song too. It all goes together. Christian songs, Christian paintings and stuff. And in comparison, look at modernism, okay? Look at so-called liberal modernism. What they celebrate is an abortion, okay? Christianity celebrates the baby, the family. It's life affirming, okay? It's what it's all about, being happy together as a family and helping each other. It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful art in the world. They try to brainwash everybody and make them all stupid with this multiculturalism BS. There is no other religion that's even done 5% as much good art as Christianity. I spent a lot of time studying art history, and there are just thousands and thousands of really good paintings. And the ones I'm showing you here are the really great paintings. But there's other ones that are great too. They're just not good enough to show in these talks. It's amazing how great the art is. And the other cultures, you know, they don't, if you don't have a metaphysic, a reason to make a painting, then why make a painting? What I've seen is most cultures are what I would say fundamentally materialistic. The idea is basically make a little money so you can support your family and have a good life, okay? You know, Christianity sort of tells you, well, you're part of this cosmic struggle between good and evil, and every person's life is important, and you know, we're all equal in the image, we're all equal in the eyes of God, and we should do the best we can. And if you can create, then you're like the Creator, and we are created in the image of God, and because we're like God, He's a creator, we should be a creator too. It just inspires great art. And people say, oh, well, isn't that idolatry to paint all these religious figures and stuff? No, you don't. You only pray, you worship, you know, God, you know, Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. They're all part of the Trinity. You worship God. But you can pray to a saint, you're not worshiping them. You're sort of like asking them a favor. Hey, can you ask God to do this for me? And the idea of it is that if you ask God and He says no, then you feel like you're screwed. No, there's no other appeal to make. But if you ask one saint, it doesn't come to you. You say, well, I'll pray to another saint. Maybe the other saint's got a better connection on this one. And it's sort of, it just works, okay? Here's an angel appearing before the shepherds announcing the birth of Christ. Shepherds went to see the baby Christ. Here's a painting by Sandro Botticelli, worked with the Medicis, and here he is. That's him right there. They often put themselves in the paintings a way to make sure they get credit for their work. And that was also part of the Renaissance, that the artists, you know, they knew they were great and they wanted to get acclaim for their work. You know, previously, artists before that often had not even signed their work. You know, they were sort of like craftsmen, whereas now they're individualistic artists. And the Medicis loved all this stuff because it's sort of the Magi supports the idea of the wealthy people doing good things, you know, supporting these paintings and other things that they did. And it's a beautiful painting. Here's the Mystic Nativity by Sandro Botticelli, and it shows, you know, the colors of Christianity. The white for faith, also for purity, the green for hope, and the red for love. So faith, hope, and charity. And see, I got my tie on, I got my green suit on, reminds me of my father, the old Irishman. And I got the colors of Christianity. This is the same tie. These are also the colors of Italy. And Italy is like very close, of course, the Rome and the Vatican connected to Catholicism. And are also the colors of Christmas. Okay, so it's nice. It's appropriate to wear the tie. I forgot to have my background. I should have my background. I usually have a white towel on the back of my chair, so it makes things more clear. Anyways, Mystical Nativity with the colors of Christianity is a nice painting, again by Botticelli. Here's a very nice painting. And a lot of these artists I saw, basically it takes them, you know, until they're about 40 or 30 to become great. And then they make some masterpiece. And kind of like with rock and roll songs, a lot of them are one-hit wonders. Because I would go through an artist and I'd go through all their paintings. And they often just got it together towards the end of their career and made some masterpiece. So this guy, Domenico Ghirlandaio, here it is, Adoration of the Magi. And it's just a spectacular painting. You know, the way the light shines on Christ. He just captures it, and everything leads your eye right to the center of the picture, you know, an offering to Christ. It's just beautiful with Mary and Joseph, and she's got the red, you know, the sad future of Christ, but also for love, the blue for Queen of Heaven, okay. You just see these paintings, and I love looking at great creative work because it makes you say to yourself, maybe I could do some great creative work someday in some way in whatever field or area you're interested in. And I don't know, it just inspires us to see all this good, beautiful stuff. Because regular life sort of beats you down with just drudgery and tedium, etc., etc. and disappointments and sadness. Whereas this just shows, you know, how magnificent things can be. So here's Adoration of the Shepherd by Bartolome Esteban Murillo. He reminds me a lot of Caravaggio in terms of his incredibly realistic, detailed technique. But Caravaggio, I think, was even better than him at precise technique. But he's better than Caravaggio at conveying emotion. And look at the warm, loving faces on them as they adore the Christ child, the baby Christ and the Virgin Mary there. And here's Domenico Ghirlandaio. And this guy kind of reminds me like of a lot of Italian guys I know. You know, they're nice. They're kind of Rico Suave, good-looking guys. Real competent. This is the Virgin Mary there, you know, praying above the Christ child and all the people coming up to see the Christ child. And it's just beautiful. Okay, so that was it for the childhood of Christ. That was it for the birth of Christ. Now I'm going into the childhood of Christ. Here's a Madonna painting by Botticelli. This one called Madonna Magnificat. You can see the crown almost halo-like above her, the scholar, the ink, and the blue. It's all just beautiful. And people try to say the Renaissance isn't religious. They don't know what they're talking about. Just going back, that painting, Sandro Botticelli was so captivated by Savonarola talking about the bonfire of the vanities that he actually burned some of his paintings. Luckily, he didn't burn more of them. He's like one of the greatest painters who ever lived. But that's how intensely religious and kind of crazy they were at some times. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think religion is great when it serves a good purpose, but not when people become nuts like Savonarola wanting to burn all the paintings. That was crazy. And the Protestants destroyed a lot of paintings too. That was crazy. Okay, here's a St. Zachary altarpiece by Giovanni Bellini, 1505. It's called the Sacred Conversation type of altarpiece, whereby saints from different times, like here's St. Peter with the keys to heaven, and St. Jerome and some other saints there, they are having a conversation. Okay, they can only exist in a painting. And so it's a nice painting, but it's not that big of a deal. But the reason I'm showing it to you is for the next painting here, to show you how beautiful it is in the context of the church. So here's a San Zaccaria altarpiece. But look how nicely it goes with all these other paintings. And this is what Catholic churches are like. All these beautiful paintings. And that's why, when I was a kid, I'd have to go to Mass sometimes with my parents. And I was a little bit bored or didn't understand what the heck the priest was talking about. But I would enjoy looking at all the sculpture and the paintings on the walls and the stained glass. It's a very entertaining place to be. They're beautiful buildings. The most beautiful buildings in the world are Catholic cathedrals. Okay, here's an Adoration in the Forest by Fra Filippo Lippi. With the Virgin Mary and the Child. There's John the Baptist right there. And there's the Trinity with the Holy Spirit and God the Father. And here's a lovely painting. This is called Song of the Angels with Madonna and Child. And this is by William Bouguereau, wrote both of these. And they're just beautiful. I mean, Christianity is full of this, just beautiful, loving, magnificent art. It catches what is good in humans, unconditional love and kindness, beautiful music. Christianity is full of this. Christianity generates this, okay? And this is what I mean is you take something, whatever it might be, you add Christianity to it, and it gets better. Okay, art without Christianity is often, not good. You add Christianity, it's magnificent. And that's why I'm telling you, too, science gets better with this stuff because it's love, honesty, truth, goodness. Okay, you start out by, and I got this quote from Robert Barron, the bishop, that you start out with the beautiful painting. And it sort of leads you to the good, love of the baby, of family, of the child, and of the motherhood. And there's a truth in that's good and what a good thing for humans to be doing. And this other one's called Innocence, also just a beautiful painting. Okay, here's another Madonna of with the lilies. Lilies are a symbol of purity. You can see the halo around the head of Mary there. Again, they're just beautiful. The Christ child. She looks tired, like a tired mom up with the baby at night. And Christ was a regular baby. Initially, his family and relatives didn't even believe he had anything to do with God until later on it became obvious. All right. Oh, actually, I think I showed this one earlier. Madonna Magnificat by Sandro Botticelli. Crap, I showed this one too before. Sorry about that. Oh, I don't know how I'm doubling up on some of these pictures. I had so many paintings, I sometimes got them a little confused. This is the beautiful Sistine Chapel Madonna. And that looks just like a lady who I know. There's a nice picture of the baby, a very with it face. Um, this is like Pope Sixtus right here. The two angels there, you know, the putti, cherubim. These guys were been on a lot of places. They were on the cover of one of the Van Halen albums by Raphael there. Here's Michelangelo. A tondo means round, and you know, there's the Virgin Mary again. You'll always see her in red and blue, and there's Joseph there and the Christ child. And Michelangelo, look at this. He was the best fresco painter, perhaps the best oil painter. You know, Raphael was up there. Maybe Raphael was a little bit better with frescoes, you know, or you know, the school of Athens and whatnot. But magnificent, and he was also a great architect, and he was also definitely the best sculptor that ever lived. Well, Bellini's up there too. Okay, here's Pope Julius, and I like Pope Julius because Pope Julius had, you know, he's the guy that hired Michelangelo and Raphael, made the Vatican like the most beautiful place, and he's also involved in the planning to, you know, improve the architecture of St. Peter's in the Rome in the Vatican. You know, that looks like hands as the audience comes and walks up to it. And so what I'm saying is, you need guys like this to make a church good. This modern business of an unmarried priest is a disaster. They stink, okay? They're low IQ dummies who don't do anything, in my opinion. I'm very disappointed in the Catholic priesthood, and I think it'll never be any good until they allow married guys. Because, you know, Pope Julius, he had a girlfriend. They say he had syphilis. I don't know if he did or not. He had some children. Good. So what if they're married? A married guy has more life experience. He did a lot of great things for the church, and he defended Italy and Rome, you know, all this good stuff. Okay, I don't know how I got so many doubles. I got, this is another one by Bartolome Murillo, and he's really good at painting faces. He's the guy who I talked about, the Spanish artist who reminded me a little bit of Caravaggio. Look at the dignity of their faces, the humanity. I mean, it's just great. This is called the Madonna of the Rosary. Okay, here's called the Heavenly and Earthly Trinity. So, in a sense, the earthly Trinity is the three of them, and then the Heavenly Trinity from Christ, the Holy Spirit, to God right above. And again, their faces are magnificent, all of them. Because, you know, a good artist draws things anatomically correct, but a great artist can do it and also show emotion. So here's Mary, Queen of Heaven. Okay, again, it's beautiful. This is when they were, you know, the flight into Egypt. This is the Holy Family. There's Mary, Joseph, and the Christ child. Okay. Again, it's beautiful. Tells the story. And then here's a painting by John Everett Millay. He's probably the best of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. They were a group of painters in the mid-1800s in England who were impressed by John Ruskin, the writer, who talked about the paintings from before Raphael having more religious enthusiasm, more religious truth in them, versus they felt Raphael was starting to go in a direction of emphasizing too much the beauty of the painting rather than the religious message of it. So this is the Christ child, and there's John the Baptist right there. There's Joseph the carpenter, and so it's a very nice painting. And there's Mary, you know, next to the Christ child, but it gets at something else interesting. So this is John Ruskin. I'll briefly just mention him. He was sort of a leading figure in the Victorian Renaissance of the mid-1800s, and he's in the center of all kinds of good things that happened in art in the mid-1800s. And he was a professor at Oxford who taught Oscar Wilde and some of the other ones over there. And he was a big supporter of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And there was a whole movement there. I'll just share with you this speech he made, and I think it was in 1853. It's like he was an art critic, and this is like perhaps, I think it is the greatest art speech ever made. He said, "There have been three ages in painting. The classical period ended with the fall of Rome. The medieval period extends to Raphael. Following Raphael is the modern era. Classicism art was pagan. Medieval art was Christian. And modern art denies Christ. All ancient art was religious. All modern art is profane. The ancient art was moral. The modern art is immoral. In medieval art, truth is first and beauty second. In modern art, beauty is first and truth is second. All ancient art and medieval art was religious. All modern art is profane. This distinction is as firm as light and darkness. He who offers God a second place offers him no place. Raphael on one Vatican wall wrote that the kingdom of theology is presided over by Christ. And on the other wall he wrote that the kingdom of poetry was presided over by Apollo. And from that spot and that hour, the intellect and the art of Italy date their degradation. Raphael elevated the creations of fancy to the same rank as the objects of faith on the other. The doom of arts of Europe went forth from that chamber. The medieval principles had led up to Raphael, and the modern principles lead down from him. Just as classical art was great in building to its gods, medieval art was great in building to its God, and modern art is not great because it builds to no God. So wow, isn't that an amazing speech by John Ruskin about 1853? He loved the Gothic cathedrals. Gothic is the only appropriate style for the building of a Catholic church. Oh, this is actually Augustus Welby Pugin. So he's a Catholic architect in the mid-1800s, and he was sort of like this revival in Catholic cathedral architecture, and he built some in England. Okay, everything glorious about English churches is Catholic. Everything debased and hideous is Protestant. Gothic is about light and color and beauty and splendor with soaring lines that lift the human spirit heavenward. The heaven-pointing spire is beautiful and an instructive emblem of Christ's brightest hopes. Okay. Let's see, this is just a few other quotes by Ruskin. All great art is the work of a whole living creature, body and soul, and chiefly the soul. Truth, beauty, and religion are bound together. Okay. He said Gothic cathedrals to their God, and the Victorian age Englishmen working in filthy factories, pumping out pollution with smokestack everywhere, and the entire town covered in soot. Okay, here's a great quote by Ruskin. They didn't live in the dark ages we do. So he lived in England, during the industrial age, where everything was polluted and filthy. And he's like, you want to say that these people who built the Gothic cathedrals live in the dark ages? And we're the ones that live in the dark ages. Okay, and that quote applies to a lot of modern stuff. Industrialism is more than an age of machines. It turns men into machines. John Ruskin. Okay. Thomas Carlyle, who saw all the railroads, he asked the question. He was Ruskin's mentor. He said, where are the railroads taking us? And Charles Dickens answered, the railroads are leading us to a spiritual death if they make us forget who we are. So I would make the analogy, where's the internet taking us? To the concentration camps? What's the purpose of the internet? Is it to educate us or to dehumanize us? Obviously, it can do either one. Ruskin says, all great art is praise. Okay, then I just end with this painting here. And this is a painting from The Christmas Carol. Bob Cratchit with Tiny Tim, who survived because Scrooge found Christ again and became more generous and helped, fund what Tiny Tim needed. So he lived. They actually became good friends. So anyways, that was the birth and the childhood of Christ. Tomorrow is Easter. Hope you enjoyed that.